All right, I want to quickly go over just another couple ways to model some products, just so you can see these things. Again, as you create your own um, shapes, you may come into these cases where it's like, okay, I need a specific shape, and then here's how, obviously, you can do that. So I'm going to show how we can take a round shape and make it square, but still keeping a round cap. If it's perfectly square, it's a lot easier to do, but transitioning from a square to round or round to square usually throws people. So let me just turn this off for a second and go to this one. All right. So this is my initial shape. This was created the exact way that the other one was. Can we see that? Did close the window? So I created this starting shape the exact same way that I created my other starting shapes. I used a spline. I drew the profile of it, and then I created a lathe. And then the only thing I did different was the original shape was like this, pretty smooth around. Anytime we're going to be changing the shape of it manually, we need to have a low amount of divisions. So I went with 8. When I go for a circle or a cylinder, 8 is a good number to go with. If I went with 6, it's not going to create a perfectly round one. If I went with 12, it's too many. 8 is typically a good number to go with, okay? Keeping in mind, eventually I will actually smooth it out so it won't look blocky. I duplicate it so that I have a backup. Oops, I hide the other one, not that one. There we go. All right, so here is the, that's the one, yes, okay. Here's the one that I want to hit C on. And so now I have this thing as a shape that I can edit. If I don't hit C, then I can't go and grab the points, and it's locked into that previous shape. So the way I'm going to make this round piece square is I'm going to go into my top view. I'm going to turn my marquee rectangle selection on. I'm going to make sure that only visible is turned off and tolerant is turned on. That way when I marquee something, it'll select all the points that are inside there. If I have this on and I do that, I can't see the point below it, so it won't select it. And then as I move this, it's not moving all the points. Okay, so I need to have this off. Then when I marquee, it grabs both of those. Okay. Now the idea with this is that I'm going to take the corners and move them out so that it looks square. I don't want to do this where I just grab it and move it because that's not accurate. I want to grab all 4 of these, this one, this one, this one, that one, then go to my scale tool and just grab the blue and scale it this way, then grab the red and scale it that way, maybe a little bit more on the blue, there we go, that's pretty good. Now you see that I've gone from a square shape into this rounded shape, okay? In a second, I'll show the other way how I can go from square into round. If I had this square shape, how I can make that look round. All right, so now that I have this, I may want to tweak some of it. Let's say that I don't necessarily like how blocky it is. Maybe I'll grab these and pull it here, or grab these and scale them here so it's nice and symmetrical. There we go. All right, that's good. It's like a flask, right? Something you drink out of. Then I'm going to grab my divisions here, and I'm going to start putting in bevels. Now this is where it's going to get a little bit tricky, because if we grab certain spots, if we don't grab certain spots and we put a bevel on it, it's going to mess it up, okay? So one of the areas, just so you can see why, if I go and smooth this out, it looks like that, which looks gross. If I grab here and double click, it goes all the way up the top of there. So I'll do this just so you can see that it's not going to be pretty. And then I'll put my bevel on. There we go. Okay, so now if I were to grab this and add my subdivision, again, it doesn't look very pretty, and my circle at the top is now no longer a circle. It's actually just like a faceted piece. It looks very odd how it's laid out. Okay, so when I add my bevels, I need to be very particular about where I grab the edges. So I'm going to grab this edge here and that edge there. And then I'm just going to grab these edges here. Okay, so this will all be in one bevel. And then make sure my snap is off. And then there we go. That looks nice and neat. A little bit messy there. So there. There I think I'm going to do proportional. I think that'll give me a better layout here than the other one did. All right, so that should be good. And now I'm going to go to here, and then add a smaller bevel. And then now when I add my subdivision, you'll see this is a nice crisped edge bottle, nice and square with a nice bevel on the sides, and then the cap area is nice and beveled here as well. Okay, so putting those bevels in the right spot is very important. Now let me undo that for a second to show you if I were to do this again, not the right way. Let's say I grab these first, and then I added the bevel. Look at what it does here. It adds these extra lines right there. So then I go and grab this, and I try to do a bevel on this area. It's number one, going to take me a lot longer to select everything. And then when I add my bevel, now I'm getting these like weirder divisions. And then when I add my subdivision, now I'm getting some kind of like weird kinky part right there where it's like not perfectly smooth. It's hard to see, I'm sure, on the projector. Now you can see it up there. It doesn't look smooth. It looks like it's like smooth at one point, but then it's too sharp at another point. It's just not nice. I didn't touch the bottom, so ignore that. Okay? So anytime I do that, I make sure I grab all the way around here, all the way around there. Basically, I'm isolating these areas as where I want my bevels to be. And then I could even go further if I need to, just making sure that I don't go too far and start crossing those divisions. Maybe proportional is not what I want. Maybe it is fixed distance and that. Yeah, that looks better. All right. I don't know why that point's so far over. It wasn't in the other one. That's going to bother me, so let me just adjust these real quick. Those points shouldn't be that spot where they're at, so I'm just going to scoochy them over. I could move them. That's not going to be a huge deal. No one's going to notice it, but I'm just going to scale them. There we go. And then bevels here. There we go. All right, so there's my bottle. Now, more stuff we could do to this. Let's just scoot that guy over. And I'm going to go to faces, and I'm going to grab these two faces here, and I'm going to extrude inner. And then I'm going to extrude and push it in. Now I have a spot. If I had a label, boom, my label could go right in that little opening right there. When I put my subdivision on, it rounds it off. That's not a good thing. So I add divisions. Anytime I have these spots where I smooth it and it gets too rounded, that's where I'm going to jump to my knife tool and start adding in divisions to help hold that shape. Again, you have to be careful of where you do that because I don't want to affect this. If I add a wrong division here, this is no longer going to be nice and round. I'll get like a weird flat side to it. So I'm going to go in here and add a division right there. I'm going to scoot down here, add a division right there. See this? Nope, that's going to go up. So let me add one right here. And then I think I'll go into each one of these areas here and add a little bevel right on the inside. And that should be good enough to hold it where we need that shape to be. There we go. All right, so now let's see if I put a subdivision on this. There we go, much better. Still a little bit of curve there, but I could push those a little bit further, tighten them up a little bit more, and that would sharpen that, but I actually like having a little bit of rounding there. Okay, it'll give the label a little bit of rounding, making it appear more realistic. The inset is definitely way too much. I need to fix that too. So let me just jump back to my faces. Grab these two faces here, and then use that UY trick to grab the stuff above it. Oops, that's too much here. Don't want that one. And don't want that one. And now if I go here and scale and move, perfect. And now I go to subdivision, and now we have just a tiny bit of an inset right there. Awesome. All right, let's say that we have a cap on this one specifically that is a transparent cap. So it's not going to be a solid cap. If it's a transparent cap, typically we would see those screwing threads on there that would go onto the cap. So I'm going to go to here. Nope, I lied. I'm going to go to spline, and I'm going to go to helix. And what this does is it creates basically those lines we would use for the screwing cap threads. So I rotate. No, I don't rotate. I go here. I switch the direction to XZ. There we go. This is why it's nice to keep all your stuff right at the origin here instead of moving it off, but it's fine. I'll just keep it here. I'm going to scale it up. I'm going to move it down. Scale it up again. There we go. Use my options over here to control the start angle, the end angle, the height, the radius, the end radius. There we go. Right, so that's good for now. Then I'm going to go and create a spline end side. End side? Sure. I can adjust it later. How many sides do I want? I'm going to say 3. Okay. This gives me a triangle. Because they are triangular, right? Those little ridges that go around. And then, just like I showed before, I have that sweep. That's what I'm going to use. I'm going to grab the sweep, drop these two into it, and now I have that shape. And now it's just a matter of adjusting what it looks like. So taking the end side, which is a triangle shape, and scaling it down. Maybe changing the direction of it. So instead of this being XY, maybe it's ZY. Yep, there we go. Nope, there we don't. XZ, no. So I do want it XY. And let me turn this off for a second so I can see it. And I just need to rotate it like that, I think. No. I need to rotate it. That's the part that's sticking out, yes. So I just need to rotate it like this. All right. So let's pull these back out, drop them back in. Nope, why won't you rotate around? Use rail direction. Banking, that's what I want to turn off. There we go. So if I turn banking off, now I get this thing that looks pretty much like that. Now it's just a matter of grabbing that end side again, scaling it down some more. Oops. And there we go. Maybe I'll go back to the helix and adjust the angles here. That seems sufficient. We're only going to see this from one direction, so hide where the ends come in, right? If you're going to do something like that, just put the ends at the back of it. That way we don't see them, we don't need to worry about it. So if you look, here's one of the ends, there's the other end. Here's the front of my camera. That's what I'm going to see. I have a pretty good view or angle around here where I don't see that. Then that's pretty much it for that one. All right, so I can just leave that the way it is. If I'm doing a cap, I would do the same thing. Now I'm showing on a lot of these using the curves, doing that lathe or doing a sweep. But if you do see a shape in here that is like, hey, I could use that, feel free to use it. So if I grab a cylinder and I pull that up and I scale it, and I shrink it down, scale it up a little bit, scoot this down. Obviously, if it has threads, all the threads need to touch where the cap is. It would look weird if this went too far out. There we go, something like that. I'm going to solo this item, so I'm going to hit solo single. I'm going to hit C, and then if you remember from one of our assignments, the caps on this are not together. So if I were to double click, the cap is actually a separate piece. So I'm just going to delete the bottom cap so it goes away. I'm going to grab the top points here, and then I'm just going to right click and say optimize. So now all those points are all connected, they're all part of the same thing. Now I can grab all of these. Make sure I don't grab stuff on the side. See how I made a boo-boo there? Just make sure I have a better angle. Good. MW, maybe scale this down some. Let's do a little bevel here, push that in. There we go. Or not a bevel, but extrude. And let's do the same thing on this side here. I'll grab this, MW, scale it. Nope. Regular extrude, there we go. And then scale it. One of the most frustrating things you'll find is switching between 3D softwares where one has a hotkey and the other one doesn't. There we go. That's good. Another extrude maybe. And another scale, another push up. There we go. And then maybe I should scale this straight up. Nope, sorry. I'll go back to that. I'm going to leave it here because this is going to be see-through, I need to build the inside too, right? So I'm going to grab the whole thing. Go to extrude, and then just pull it out a little bit. Okay, I'll pull it out a lot so you can see what's happening, but that's all I'm doing, pulling it out a little bit, and that gives it the thickness that it would have here. So now this shape has depth to it, so that when we put a transparent object or a transparent material on there, we can see through it somewhat. Then I go through and do all my bevels. And I do the bevels at the end, because if I were to try to do it at the last stage, sometimes it'll kind of intersect itself and cause some weird stuff to happen. So let me grab these two and this one. That's good. And I will hit the right buttons and then make those small. And then this one here, and yeah, that one there I'll do. That one could be a bigger one. And then these three here can be smaller ones. That's way too big, right? There we go, nice and tight. There we go. All right, cool. So now there's the cap for that. And then I steal, if I'm going to turn this solo off, here is that thing. I'm just going to steal it from the other one, so I just duplicate it. And then I'm going to negative scale it by grabbing the helix, hitting C on the helix because I'm done with that. And I will isolate this so you can see just what's going to happen. So I have the helix selected, and I'm going to negative scale it. Okay, so right now it's not letting me go past 0. If I go to my scale options, I think that's on somewhere. I don't know where it is, but I guess it doesn't matter. I'm just going to go here and watch which number is scaling, and go here to -1. Okay, so I look down here, and as I drag this, you can see that it's scaling that top X one. I know it's X because it's red, and I just go here and put negative, whatever the number is, and boom, it'll flip it around to the other side. And then I can do the same thing on this end side. Scale that also in the -1. It's being difficult. Fine, I'll just turn banking back on, and then you'll just work. Object, banking, there we go. Yep, and so now that line's more on the inside. Oh wait, that was right anyway. That's right. Never mind. It's right the way it was. So now I unsolo everything. There's my cap. So I group those things together, call this cap. Move it up. And there's the cap with the threads on the inside. And then this is the cap, or the bottom for the bottom. Let me just delete this one and just scoot this one over here. That's the finished one. That's the one I want anyway. So this is my subdivision. This is that. And this is bottle there. I'll group these and call these product 6, whatever I want to call it. Put them on layers, same as before. Oops. There we go, and he disappears. Okay. Now, let's say we're doing it the other way, where we have a cube, and we want to take the cube and then make this have rounded pieces to it. Okay. So I'm going to just kind of shape this out to how I want this cube to be. So let's say this is going to be like a shampoo bottle or something, one of those fancy ones with the kind of roundedness to it. All right, something like that. I'm going to add a division here, so you can see it, there, and there. And I'm going to need a couple more. Oops. So what I'm looking to get is right here in the middle. I need to have those 8 divisions. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, that will give me my shape. I hit C, and then I'm going to go into my top view. Now, I need this to look perfectly round here. I'm not good at eyeballing perfectly round, so I'm going to create a cylinder that has 8 divisions. I'm going to turn the caps off. I don't need those. And then I'm going to hit C so I can see the divisions on there. Now I have a template. So now I can grab my cube, grab the points, and then just scale these out till they're there. Grab these points, scale them in till they're there. Grab these points, and oops. And I'm using the spacebar to toggle back and forth between that selection tool and my scale tool. There we go. So that matches pretty good. Now I can just delete the cylinder because I'm done with it. And now I have this that I could then grab the faces, scale it up if I need to. Maybe I want this a little bit bigger. And then just go to my extrude and extrude that up. Okay? So it's the opposite thing, going from a square object or cube object to the cylinder versus the other way. It's still doable, still the same process. We essentially get the same kind of shape at the end of this, just a matter of how we got there. I'm going to add a couple divisions here. And let's say I just scaled this in, just rotated it some. Again, this is one of those fancy bottles, like that. I'm doing this wrong first, just so you can see it, then I'll do it the correct way. All right. All right, so this is the wrong way to do it. If you look at the very bottom of it, you look at the very top of it, they're at an angle. Typically, we don't want them at an angle because it doesn't feel like it has a solid area to land on or to have a piece there. So before I do any of that movement, typically I want to throw a division, let's say right there, and let's say right here. Now I can go in here and then move this and scale it and whatever else, and I'll get this kind of solid foundation for all the other points that I have. There we go. It's like Valvoline oil is what it looks like, right? Something like that. There we go. You pay extra for that bottle. All right. Maybe I want to move my points over, so I grab these points, and I'm just going to, let's go in the front view. Let's grab these and just slide those over there. If I'm going to make a spot for a label of where I want a label to be, I want to just get the points kind of lined up to that. And so you'll see how I'm kind of pushing all these points so that they line up. There's an even margin going all the way around here. A little bit less on the bottom, but for the most part it's there. The middle one I'm not going to be too concerned about. That can stay right in the middle. There we go. And then I'll go and grab the faces here and do the same thing I just did on the other one. Extrude inner just slightly. And then extrude, and then just give it a little push in. And then once we subdivide this, ooh, look at that. It's fancy. Add some bevels to this, right? So it stays locked in. There we go. Right, so that actually could be a bottle shape just because it's very rounded already. We don't have to have too much stuff there. That could work for a bottle. Right. artistic type bottle, but it's still a bottle, okay? So that's just a couple extra techniques that as you're building your models, you may run across these instances where you need these kinds of weird shapes, or you need these kind of extra techniques, okay? Like I said, if you plan for one object a day, that's a pretty good workflow. Next class, I'll go over the texturing part of it. How do we actually get a label on here so we can see our nice label, or build a label and then put it on there. But that'll take you through all the modeling stuff for this specific assignment that you should need. Cool? Questions? Never.